He's gonna get. He's gonna fight me. He's a big Viking. He thinks he's awesome.
Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. I want to talk to you about this game right here. Carnival Zombie. Now, Carnival Zombie was a game that came out quite a while ago. As you notice, this is second edition right here. Carnival Zombie was like a game that had a fairly small print run, and it was a very tough game to get a hold of. It got a lot of buzz right away, basically because, well, I mean, a lot of people say like zombie games, oh, another zombie game. But like, here's a zombie game that was like, it was like a crazy idea that people had. It was like, okay, so what's your idea for a zombie game? What if it was set in Italy? All right, fine. And set in the city of Venice. Okay, cool. So like, there's going to be water and boats. What else? What if the good guys were all part of a carnival? What do you mean? So they're all like going to be members of, like, there's like a circus strongman and a clown and all these other things. And they're going to run around with their big giant weapons, and the entire time the city of Venice is going to be trying to be swallowed up and destroyed by a giant zombie Leviathan type creature. Okay, where is this idea coming from? And like, so yeah, it was like the theme of the game was like from way out in left field. And I was lucky enough to manage to track down a copy, and I have it and I own it. And I love the game. It was like a combination. It had a couple of things going for it. It had the theme going on for it, which I really, really liked. But it had a combination of like both like a kind of abstract moving your way through the city type of situation, and then when night fell, you went into this like combat tower defense type game, and there's a little bit of like a dexterity thing going on, and all this other cool stuff that like all these different amalgamations of different types of mechanisms that really worked well, told a really fantastic story, and was just a heck of a lot of fun to play. But of course, like as I said, there was this limited print run, and getting a hold of copies of Carnival Zombie was very, very difficult to do. A while ago, like a year ago or so, there was rumblings that they were gonna like come back and have another reprinting of it, and then like nothing ever came of that. And now, like finally, like on Kickstarter, they like funded up a huge amount of money, and depending upon when you watch this, you might be watching this video right at the tail end of the Kickstarter campaign. Maybe the game's already come out. Maybe like you're doing a late pledge or something like that. You know, whatever. But they did come out with like a second edition. Now this is a prototype I was sent. This isn't like the final published version of it. But they didn't just reprint the game. They went in and they refined it, because there were some clunky little bits. Nothing that made the game bad at all, but definitely some things that needed to be streamlined a little bit with the second edition. But also what they did is they went back in and they said, what if we changed things up? What if we gave you some scenarios? What if we gave you a different gaming experience depending on what the players wanted at that given time, as far as playing out the game and figuring out what happens with Carnival Zombie and whether or not you escape Venice and so on and so forth. So let me show you how this game is played. I'm not gonna like, I'll go over like the mechanisms and how you go through like an entire day of cruising around this weird version of Venice that they've created here, and then I'll come back here and I'll tell you. I've already kind of told you that I really like the game because, like I said, I own a first edition copy. But I'll tell you a little bit about why I dig the game so much, and also tell you why I'm digging the new stuff they put into this second edition. All right, cool. Let's do this. Alright everybody, so this is Carnival Zombie. I'm going to be showing you how this game is played. Now a couple quick things before I dive in. This won't be a full step-by-step, this is the entire game type of thing. I am just going to highlight the different mechanisms and the gameplay. The second thing is that this is a prototype I was sent. While this is a really high-level prototype, like I don't have, like you can see there's the standees over there. I don't actually have like the miniatures for those different bosses and what have you. But what you're going to see here is very much kind of, as far as the art and things like that go, that you're going to get when the game is published. And the board is double-sided because of the fact that I can't really show you because I have stuff on the board, but the board is double-sided because of the fact that there are tons of like new scenarios and things that they've added to the game since the first edition. I'm not going to go into all those scenarios and stuff. I will talk about them. Like here's like the scenario book. I will touch on those when I go into my final thoughts. But rest assured, the game is still awesome. As I said, I had the first edition game, and I still have the first edition game. Love it. Still play it, and they've just basically made this game that much better. All right, so let's just dive in. I can kind of explain a little bit of what you are looking at. So this is the like kind of like the city of Venice. It's kind of like this is the battle map section. After a day is completed, that is when the infected or the zombies are going to come out, and they're going to try to defeat your heroes, which are located here. This is like the Venice chart map. Your whole goal in this game is how you're either going to try to kill the Leviathan, and here's that Leviathan right there. You're going to have to be trying to kill that Leviathan, or trying just to escape the city. Now, when obviously killing Leviathan is a little more difficult, but if you want to try a more epic experience and try to pull that off, you're going to go ahead and do that. During the day, you're going to be using this little tracker to move around the different spots of the city. Depending upon where you end up at night, like you're going to then, the spot here will affect how this gets set up. That's a little bit, I'm talking a little bit ahead, but you know, just remember that you know, these locations in the city, one, like will determine like how you're going to be trying to defeat the game. Like up here at this number 3 here, that's like you're trying to escape via the airship. Over here, you can see this is escaping via the bridge. Now that might be a little bit difficult for you to see right here, but I mean, you know, just these different spots denote that. Plus, certain spots will have like possible actions that you can take, like armories where you can get weapons and what have you. And also, depending upon how difficult you want the game to be, you can choose what your starting location is. So, like I've chosen like the easiest starting location right here, and that will be like the easy location. If I wanted to try something more difficult, I could go up to this location here, and then all the way up to this location there. As you can tell, like the further you get from the endings that you're trying to shoot for, the more difficult the game will become. There's also some other little tokens or like dots that surround those locations. That determines a little bit as far as what the setup will be when you create your battle map, and I'll talk about that when we get a little bit closer to that section. Over here, you're going to see this is the tickets. These are like the 3 different days, like the tickets of the carnival. And this is the craziest theme game. I just love it. I'll tell you. But anyway, regardless, so you have the 3 different days. Basically, if you don't pull off a victory by the end, you lose. You know, basically Venice is consumed by the Leviathan, and you die as well. You know, and then you have like a day, you know, during the day and during night, day, night, and so on and so forth, and you go through. There's also over here, you can see that there is a tracker for days and nights here. You will start, you know, at the beginning, and you'll go through the day, and then at nighttime comes, that's when you hunker down and you try to defend yourself from the infected when they come out to attack you. Over up here, you will see there's these 4 locations here. Those are the different basic types of infected that you'll deal with. Like there are just the really basic vermin, which are your kind of run-of-the-mill things. But then if you have, like, you have your Barricades, which can move fast. You have these Goliaths, which take more damage to take out. And then you have Molochs, which actually do more damage to the players. Since I'm talking about damage, I might as well try to show you the damage tracks. It isn't damage as far as like hit points, so to speak, but it is damage according to stress levels. As you take damage, you will move up on these stress markers like so. When you get into the red, that means that your character is terrified. When you are terrified, that's bad because there is the boat of the dead, the boat of the pile of corpses, which is over here, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. But when you have a situation during the night and you have the pile of corpses going on, and you fail at the pile of corpses, which that's tantalizing, right? I'm not telling you what the pile of corpses is just yet. Your failure affects everybody, not just you. If a character ever goes off the chart like so, they are considered incapacitated, meaning that they cannot do anything. They're so full of fear and terror, they're unable to function. It is very possible the characters do have powers and do have actions that they can take that will actually return an incapacitated player back to, you know, functioning, which they takes them back to the like the bottom level of terror, and then you can actually heal the terror levels as well. Like you can take a moment to rest and, you know, meditate or what have you, and you can reduce those things as well. But if you are ever in a situation where all of the characters are incapacitated, then obviously nobody can do anything. You're going to lose, and the game is over. Over here you have these 6 decks of cards. Each one of these is for one of these heroes here. I might as well just show you a close-up of like one of the miniatures. The miniatures, I mean, these are, like, I'm sure these were 3D printed, and like these are not the final ones, but the detail on these is really, really cool, and I dig them, and I'm excited to see the miniatures for the bosses that are up there as well. The miniatures are only used when you are fighting, and you'll be placing them in the center area to show where they're going and what they're going to be, which ones of, as far as like because when this battle happens, the players stay in the middle, and then the infected kind of just rush in. It's kind of like a tower defense type of situation. But anyway, these cards over here are for each of these characters. Like this one is for the captain here. You know, this is like the doctor, and that's him there, and so on and so forth. So you don't have like a giant pile of cards or whatever that everybody draws from. Each person will have their own kind of unique deck that will be the items that they can get. So just keep that in mind. All right. So over here you have the boss track. When the night falls, you will draw a certain number of bosses from the boss cards, which are right here, and then you will add them to the board, and you will put those in there. And as like, yeah, the greater the difficulty of the game, the more bosses there will be during those final battles. One other quick thing, or actually 2 quick things, then I can actually talk about the game. There is this like kind of like fate deck, which is the randomized deck, which has all these icons. You will reshuffle this at the beginning of each turn, so like you will reshuffle it when you move to take a 2 and then take a 3. Each one of these, it has like an event that it tells you what happens, and then it also like has randomization things. Like if you ever have to randomize an effect against a character, this would be character number 2. If you ever are searching and you draw a card, like that means that you get an item down here in the bottom left, and so forth. And like this is a like E1, so East 1, like you can see East 1. So if you were trying to figure out where like you would place something, you would place in that. So that's what these cards are for. They are a randomizer and also an event deck. And those are placed over there. The last thing is that each character, I should say, the brown cubes are going to be the barricades. The barricades are going to be placed in these little spots around the board. If the more barricades you have, the better, because that prevents the infected from attacking you. And the red cubes are used to denote damage to bosses. One of these things about like the only like if you don't do enough damage to destroy an infected, which is, you know, like in the rare case that like you have these Goliaths that have 2 health, basically you know, you have to do enough damage to destroy them. So you're never really using wound cubes for the basic infected, but you will be using the wound cubes for the bosses. All right, so then each player will get, like, you know, for each character, you get one of these cards, and then on the back, it's very, very well done representation of like your powers, like the damage of your weapons, and like the range of those weapons, and so on and so forth. And you know, and these are really well done. And 2 things I really like about this. Well, first of all, the art's really cool. Secondly, I really like about this is that the vast majority of all of the components here are completely language independent. They're just icon driven and with very few words, meaning that one, like if you did get if you were not an English speaking person and you got this version of this game, because it is in English, it would be very easy for you to pick it up. And, you know, secondly, I mean, obviously then, because there's very few words to the game, then you know, they're going to be able to make it in lots of different languages, something that I think is also really good. Oh, and one other thing, I reference these things in my reviews a lot. Whenever, so like here's like this sheet here where this one lists off all of the bosses, and it tells you like what the boss's special abilities are. Like the Doge has all the infected have movement 2 instead of like the ones that have movement 1. The Admiral, during the night step 5 infected and boss attack, a random character gets +2 stress. So you have like these cool abilities that are here, and then you just have an awesome little player sheet that just tells you that right away. Here is like the different the abilities of all the players. So if you want to read about them, it's right there for you. In the inside, it tells you these are all the different locations of the city and what those different locations are. And then because there's all these different ways to end the game, it lists them. Like this, like, hey, this is what you're going to be doing as far as the different things that happen when the game is coming to a close. So I love it when games and publishers and designers or whatever take the extra time to make stuff like this. Just make the game easy to play. Make the game like reduce the amount of time with my face stuck in a rule book, and and increase the amount of time I have just playing the game in front of me. So. All right, so there we got through the kind of the introduction and explaining as far as all this stuff that's going on. So one really cool thing about what the game does is that it has like you don't just start static. Like it isn't just like, okay, we're going to begin. And the other thing is too, you have to play with 6 characters. You can't play, well, I suppose you could, but you're probably going to lose because the game's really tough. But like you start with 6 characters, so you have to divvy this up. You can play with up to 6 people. I probably wouldn't suggest that, but I would play with 3 or 4. And like you can have people double up with characters. If you can't, like if you're playing with 3, each person could take 2. If you're playing with 4, you can have 2 what are called group characters that like the group will decide what they do and what have you. So just keep that in mind. Oh, and I forgot to mention this, like each one of these is like, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is like the order that those actions will be taken, like and how when the players will be activated. All right, so all that is said and done. So now we're gonna go through there is like, even though like the beginning of the game, the scenarios will start with a different beginning, but even with the beginning of the game, you're going to have what's called the story so far section. Now, I didn't mention this bag because this bag has a bunch of wooden cubes in it. The wooden cubes are going to represent the infected, it's going to represent survivor blue cubes, and it's going to represent paranoia black cubes. And so what happens is that each person and for each character is going to do what's called the story so far. And what you do is you're going to draw a cube from this, and then you're going to apply the effect is what you get. So let me just grab one here and I'll see what I get here. I'm not looking, I'm not cheating. And so let's see. Okay, so I drew a gray cube. So that is a Goliath Cube, and that means the character gets +1 stress. So if I was playing this character, I move it up to +1 stress. Now I have to choose if that character is going to go into hiding or if they're going to keep looking for resources. Now, if I go into hiding, the character finds shelter and they will stay hidden and the preparation is finished, and put any cubes drawn back into the bag, which they call the bag is the abyss. If you drew a blue cube, it's a survivor cube, and you would handle it differently. Now, so there are green cubes in here. Remember, these are represented by the different cubes. So like, let's just say the green cube is the vermin. You get +1 stress, but then you also get to take a barricade and put it in to the storage, which is over here. Basically, you need a barricade. A white cube is a bar guest, and it's like you you can get you take a bar guest and you set it aside because of the fact the white cube was set aside. And if you do get stress later during as the story begins, or the story so far, you would take extra stress because of that. If you get a purple cube, you would get 2 stress for that, and you would also get a barricade. If you get a blue cube, then you just put the blue cube in the storage, and then nothing happens to the character. So like, let me just dig in here and let me see if I can find it. There's a blue cube. Nope. There. Okay. So if you have the blue cube, you would just put that in there. It's in the survivor. Survivors are like this kind of like get out of jail free thing, and I think it's kind of evil actually, because like you could like sacrifice survivor. You find a survivor in the city, and you just kind of you can sacrifice them for lots of things. Like you can sacrifice them to to prevent something bad happening. So like you can also sacrifice it to a boss, and then they aren't able to do anything there on because they're too busy, I'm guessing, eating that particular survivor. So, but survivor cubes are a good resource to have, and you want to make sure you snag those if at all possible. Finally, a black cube is a paranoia, and at the end of this step, you have to choose hiding. So, like, if you drew a black cube, and I think I saw one in there, is that a black cube? So yeah, if you drew a black cube, that's a great cube. Anyway, regardless, if you drew a black cube, it basically removes the idea that you choose if you're going to hide or if you're going to keep looking. Now, if you decide to keep looking, then you're just going to go ahead and draw another cube out of this bag. And if you still can keep looking, you can once again draw another cube out of the bag. If you basically testing your luck each time. But if you if you test a face for a third time, you draw a card from the boss deck, which is over here, and then you get stress equal to the boss attack value as it's shown on the card. So this is like the boss attack value of 2. And so then you get 2 stress for drawing that particular card. You're like, well, I don't want to do that. But you can then, if you want to, draw one of your item cards, which are powerful, or you can draw another barricade and put it into the box over here for the barricades. So, and then each person gets to do that. So, like, it's one of those things where the first player can decide what they're going to do, the second player decides to do, and so on and so forth. And what's going to happen is each one of these characters is going to have, like, you know, a varying level of stress to begin the game, depending upon their choices. And I kind of really dig this because it's like, you never know exactly how that's going to run, and I have played a 6-player game where it was kind of fun, like yelling at the other players, no, don't keep looking, you idiot, you're going to screw us over. Yeah. So there is some kind of fun little aspect as far as that concerned. All right, so during the day, what happens is that you will there's these 4 hours, basically, is what's considered during the day that you get to do stuff. You're going to split that into either an action hour, if you will, or movement time. Movement normally takes 1 hour to move from one space to the other, unless you're in a spot that has like this little +1 there. That means that it's a dangerous way to travel, and you're going to have to add a +1. Also, as the game progresses, you are going to like draw these cards, and like and then depending upon like like you're gonna end up sinking different locations into, because the Leviathan, remember, is destroying the city of Venice. You're gonna end up sinking, or like basically drowning a certain section of the city. So in the case of this card, there isn't actually a number in this location up here, but that just basically says you have to like flounder, is what it's called, or like basically submerge that section of the city. Here, let me draw another one so you can actually see there are ones with, yeah, so like here's one that just has a number, and it would say just sink number 12. Now, the big thing about these is that your characters can't stay in a spot that is floundering. So in this case, we would take this, because we started in that location, we add this +1 spot to there, and that means that it's going to take us +1 hour to get out of that section. Now, we probably might have wanted to go to this spot there because of the fact that it was like, that's where you can go, there's an armory or whatever, there's special actions you can take in that location. But now it takes an extra hour to get out of the spot we're in because it's submerged underwater. And and I should mention that if for any reason you are unable, it can happen. It's pretty rare. But if you're ever in a situation where you can't move out of the spot you're at because of the fact that it's floundering, and where you automatically lose. So it's, and you can't stay there overnight as it is. But anyway, so in this case, like, we want to have some extra time to do it. So we would probably, if we end up choosing to move, we would just, because it's +1 to leave, and then, so it'd be 2 hours to go to this number 4 in this section right here. And so then if it's 2 hours, we go 1, 2. And so now we're looking at a third and our 4th hour. Now, we have the option now, if we wanted to keep moving, we definitely could. We could say, you know what, now let's travel down to like this section right here, where this number 5 is. But remember, for each hour you have, then each person is able to take an action. So you're kind of like, oh, do we want to take 2 actions, or do we want to move down there? And ultimately, also, you're talking about like, what kind of goal are we going to try to make? Are we going to try to like make it to the bridge and do the bridge escape? Or are we going to actually try to find the bomb and kill the Leviathan? So you have decisions to make. So let's just stay right there, and let's just take, like, so each person's going to possibly get 2 actions. Well, you know what? I want to go down. Let's go here. So we're going to go there. Maybe we're just going to say, we're just going to go to the bridge. We're going to try to escape via the bridge, and that's the location we're going to go. All right. So now we are, oh man, I really want to show you, when we show you how the combat works, though, I really wanted to show you that. You know what, I'm going to stay at the 4. I'm going to stay at the 4. You know why? Because I want to be able to show you when I set up the battle, like the actual bonus sections as well. All right, so we've done our 2 hours. We're in our spot. Now, if we want to, we can take our action hours. Now, there are several different things that you can choose to do. If you want to, for your hour of action for each character, you can do a rest, which just lowers your stress by 2. So if we had this character and we want to rest them, we can lower their stress by 2 if they want to. You can do barricades, which means basically you spend some time crafting, and like character could just take and they could create 3 barricades. I place them there. Depending upon the characters, they all have different abilities. If you have a day ability, then you could go ahead and take that action. For example, let me grab these characters real quick. So, the Doctor, for example, the Doctor character can take a day ability here, and they can actually heal 3 stress by doing their day ability. So, like if we wanted to heal this guy of all 3 of his stress, we could take that action and do so using that Doctor's ability. And each person just has, like, there's a guy that creates more barriers. There's a character that helps you search better, things like that. And variable player powers in games are always welcome because they add to the strategic value and also some immersion to the game as well. You can search. When you search, you draw 1 card off the Nightmare deck, and then you will determine what happens. Like, and this is bad because that would actually, you found infected when you searched. You get +1 stress for doing so. So like maybe it was this character, they get +1 stress, and then they can choose to either pick a survivor and place it onto the board, or they can draw from their item decks and get an item. You still get something, but you get stress because you had to fight an infected creature, to get that thing. Then you can also choose to reanimate. If you reanimate, that's if somebody has gone completely off the track and they've lost their minds. When you reanimate them, you place them, as I said, you place them into that section. And then also, depending upon the turn order, like if it was say this character, the reanimated the character that did this, then that character would get to take action. So if you have people that have lost their minds, try to get them reanimated before it's their action, because you want to be able to get them back on the board so they can start doing their things. All right, so the big thing there is, remember, if you're in the terror, that's going to make your infected part more difficult, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. And you just remember your turn order. Your turn order is very important. So once everybody's taken all their actions and you've gotten through the whole deal, now you're going to enter into the night, and you're going to be setting up the battle that's going to happen in the middle. Now, remember a while back I told you that there are these different colors around these different locations? Now, those determine the obstacles and the fortifications that you're going to be placing. So we're in spot number 4. It has 2 black circles, 2 blue circles, and 1 yellow circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to discover the terrain, and what we're going to do is we're going to be placing the obstacles first and then the fortifications. So we're going to do 2 black situations, and we're going to be doing 2 blue obstacles, and then finally 1 yellow fortification. So the thing is that what you're going to do is you're going to use, once again, the random location over here to determine those spots. So here we have south 1, and we're going to be placing our the first obstacle. So this, as you can see, has a blue border. You can kind of tell there. And on the other side, it has this dark border. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this in south 1, and then it tells us the number that it's going to be placed. So there's ring 1, ring 2, and ring 3. So we're going to place that particular one right there. Now we're going to draw another card for the next section, and this is going to be north 2. And so north 2 is here. We're going to take this, flip it over, and here's a building, and then it tells you ring 1. So we're going to place that building there. Now we're going to place our 2 blue ones. So we're going to turn this card over. We have south 2. And if you ever get the same thing again, you just move clockwise. So, don't worry about that. So then we're going to take, and this is a blue, so we're going to place that there. And then the final one is another south 2. So we're going to move this around, and it's going to be blue. And then this one goes in there, like so. Now we'll finally place our nice fortification. We're going to take this card, turn it over, and a north 1. And now we will randomly choose one of these particular good things, if you will. North 1. You're going to place it right there. All right, so now these don't really mean much to you right now, but I mean, as far as like the different fortifications, like this like holy place right there, when you kill the infected, they'll go back in the bag instead of being placed on the pile of corpses, which is over there. Buildings will block your movement. Catacombs allow the creatures to move faster. Manholes have them show up quicker, like you're going to place infected on those locations. So it's all of these will affect, like, as far as the process of the tactical battle that you're going to be into. So now the players get to place the barricades. And so depending upon the barricades they have, and let's just give me a couple more here, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. Depending upon the barricades, the players are going to decide where to place them. So a lot of times people will say, well, let's just go ahead and make sure we put 1 in each section because we have enough to do so. That's always a pretty good idea. But in some places, so now actually we had just a perfect number to place 1 in each spot. Barricades will prevent things from attacking, which is always a good thing. But the barricades do get destroyed as time goes by. I usually, when I play, I usually have one person, like if we have extra things, like make lots of barricades, because it's always better to like be able to defend yourself, in my opinion. But sometimes, and just like any good co-op game, as the game ramps up, you have less and less actions and less things that you can possibly do, so you can't always count on that being available to you. All right, so now after you've done that, each player, like depending on, will decide which spot their characters are going to be at. I'm not going to be really technical here. We're just going to drop them in like so. Now you can see with all those 6 on there, like, you can tell if having less than 6 characters is going to make it very, very difficult. In which case, like, you always want to make sure that you don't have anybody incapacitated because of that. Now, here's where it's tricky. Now we're going to do, like, the bosses. So the bosses show up by the number of bosses. So in this case, since we're playing a medium difficulty and it's the first night, we're going to get 3 bosses. So we're going to take 1, 2, 3 off the top. And we're just going to place those down like so. So we got the Admiral, we got the Flagellant, and we got the Doge. And so what you'll take with these is that now you will place them in those locations just like you did before. So you place, like, he will be in East 1. So let me grab so East 1, like so. There is the Admiral. And let's get the Flagellant. The Flagellant is going to be in West 2, or West, so he'll be right there. Of course, now I gotta find the figure, so give me a moment here. I do, as I said, really look forward to the miniatures for all of these guys because of the fact that I think they're going to look super, super cool. Why can't I find my Flagellant? Ah, there he is. So West 2. Like so. And let's go ahead and draw the last location, and that is going to be North 1. So, and then that is going to be our Doge, which, there he is. North 1, like so. Alright, so now we have our 3 bosses placed. Now this is kind of interesting because we have 2 of these bosses that don't actually move. They won't actually get closer to anybody. Now, the Doge stinks because he makes all of the infected move at 2. And the Flagellant will actually, move up and actually try to be doing damage to us and trying to mess with us, though. So, the Flagellant will come and actually, like, fight us hand to hand. Also, like, the Admiral, remember, he will cause us to... he has that special power or whatever that he is able to give us extra like terror each turn that he's there. So he'll terrorize people. But anyway, so now after we've gone ahead and set all that up, now we have to set up the beginning infected. So to do this, what you're going to do is you're going to take the bag and you're going to draw 3 random cubes for each level 3 spot. So here we have, oh, and we got a survivor. I'll talk about that guy in just a little bit here and what that does. So now we'll go ahead and place 3 there. Ooh, 2 Molochs there. That's not good. Place 3 here. Oh, and there's a manhole, so we're going to end up placing one there as well. That just means that basically because they're crawling out of the manhole to get there. Place 3 there. Ooh, we got a Paranoia Cube. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Place 3 there. Ooh, 2 survivors in that spot. We gotta save them. And then 3 there. Alright, so survivors. Survivor cubes will stay in those locations. If at the end of the night there is no infected in this location or that location, we get to collect those survivors and be able to use them next. So remember, survivors are kind of like that get out of jail free card. They allow us to, like, basically stop bad things from happening. The Paranoia Cube, what happens to the Paranoia Cube is that the players, like you choose between the 2 players that are in that location that they get affected, and then you're going to take that and you're going to place it on the character that's on there. What the Paranoia Cube does is it prevents the player from doing an extra action in their turn. When you're fighting, you basically have the option to move to another action or fight in the spot that you're at. If you choose, but you only do 1 action. But if you want to, you can choose to do 1 more action. And if you do that, you take a level of stress to do it. But in most cases, you're going to end up taking that option a lot because of the fact that, well, you just need to in order to survive the night. So, but if you have Paranoia, unfortunately, you're unable. You don't even have the option to take that +1 action, even if you really wanted to. I just realized I made a mistake. It's kind of minor, but this is a pier spot, and basically what that does in that spot is it pushes all of the things forward another spot. So just keep that in mind. All right, and then the other thing is that this catacombs here, as they get closer, normally infected when they move forward, they're only able to enter into these locations if there are like no barricades at all. But with the catacombs, you're able to get into these spots, and then they're able to attack the players. The other thing I should have mentioned is that as the things move forward, bosses need 2 spots open. There is also 1 giant boss that needs all 3 of them open. But other than that, like, they will just, like, all group up. And plus, the strongest zombies go first. So remember that. The players can't choose, say, oh, we'll just move the vermin forward and we'll fight those first. No, the strongest zombies move first. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the way it works is you're going to want to move the things like by rings first. So there's nothing in ring 1, so you won't move them. So you're going to start with ring 2. We have this purple guy. Remember, the Doge makes this guy move 2, which stinks. He's in this catacombs. He's going to make it all the way to that spot because of the fact that he can move into that spot with the barricade there. Now over here, we have these. We're going to move these 2 bar guests first. We're going to move them up here, and you'll notice that they can't move in because there's still a barricade there. We're going to move this vermin here like so. And then also that vermin is going to be stuck in that spot as well. We're kind of, like I said, we're in a unique situation because everything's moving 2 spaces. So now we're just going to go ahead and move the level 3 spots. So like here, like these 3 will move up 2. This guy will move up 2. These 3 will move up 2, 2, 2, 2, and that would have it. Oh, and then I forgot to move the boss. The boss would move forward as well. So now that we've moved everything, now we're going to go into the different actions. Now, thankfully, the players get to go first, which is, pretty important. So what happens is then each person will take an action. As I said, you're allowed one action, but if you want to take 2, you can do so at +1 stress. You have 2 actions. You can either attack, which is called an assault, and you use an assault against cubes that are within the barricade wall, like so, or you can fire, in which case then you're going to be firing on the infected that are surrounding it. A couple of things. If there is a boss, you cannot target the boss as long as there are infected in the same area that they're at. You have to kill the minions before you can target the boss. There is things where you have explosive ammo which affects everything in a spot. If you have that, then that's still valid. The other thing is that if you have infected on the barricade spots, you can't shoot those. You can't use your shoot ability or your fire ability. You have to use your hand-to-hand melee, or what the game calls your assault ability, to do it. Now, if you wanted to, you could still fire on the other infected in that area if you wanted to, but you have to take +1 stress to do so. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to make up your mind as to whether or not it is something valid. Now, there are no dice for combat at all. What it is that you're just going to say this character is going to attack as far as, so here is Columbine. She is like a sniper, and so on the back you can see she has, this has a range of 3, and then she can fire, and then you do 2 damage to the things that she's fighting at. I want to find one that has, oh, here we go. So here is Pantalone, and notice that his over here has this little explosion. That means he has explosive ammo. He's shooting grenades, so that would be affecting everything in that particular spot. Also, as you can see here, his assault is 1 damage. You can see here, this is kind of your big tough guy you can assault to, and these are the number of fire actions you can do depending upon the different characters. Here the captain has this ability to shoot. Oh, and I should mention the commander has some cool abilities that are represented by these little tiles here, and he can use those to command the other players to do different actions as well. The commander is a pretty important character, and having him go first is usually a pretty good idea because he can basically make other people take extra actions because he's telling them what to do. But anyway, so combat, as I said, is pretty simple. If you have your character here, and this guy is the Pantalone guy, you could just say, well, for his action, I'm going to have him assault, this particular cube there. And so when you do an assault, you can actually, let me find this, I think it was a 1, but I just want to make sure before I go. You can see there's an assault of 1. The Molochs have a wound of 1, and then you could remove that particular character like so. Now, if you wanted to have another character come over to that spot and actually, do a fire action maybe to take out some multiple zombies in that spot. So let's say, where is he again? I wanted to find the guy that has the explosive. Well, it's we could even just take the captain here because he's got the big shotgun. It does 1 damage, and he can affect everything in that area. So if the captain said, okay, for my action, I'm going to move. And I'm going out of turn here, but I just want to show you this. And he's going to take his 1 action, and he's going to shoot over here. Now, the Goliath he can't kill because he's got 2 health, but because of the fact of the explosive ammo, he could take care of those 2. Now, I just realized I'm kind of skipping by something that's very important. I've been alluding to this, the pile of corpses this entire game. So what happens as you kill the infected, you will be allowed to drop, and I just almost screwed that up, you have to drop the infected onto this boat as a pile of corpses, and as you kill them off one by one, you will drop them, and you can drop them from any height, but they're going to keep filling up and filling up. And I'm trying to do this so I can actually do this okay, so there I actually had a situation where one of them fell off. So that particular infected fell off, and they were killed in that location. So what happens is, one, the person that, like, when we filled it, they get +1 stress. So he would get +1 stress for doing that. If he happened to be in the terror section and that happened, not only would he get +1 stress, every single other player would get +1 stress as well, because of the fact that he dropped that infected off of the pile of corpses. And then you would take that and then you would place it back on the board. Basically the infected comes back to life and will keep fighting. So this is kind of a cool little dexterity element that they added to the game, and that's part of the mechanisms, and I really like that. And I was part of the original one too, but I mean, it's just I really dig that. And as the game progresses, you're gonna have just piles and piles and piles. And I'm just reaching into the bag here to grab some. But you're gonna have, and people are gonna be dropping these, and there's a survivor that shouldn't be on there. But you're gonna have more and more on there that are gonna be pushed further and further towards it, and eventually it's going to be pretty precarious as you keep adding to that pile of corpses. And I really dig that part of that game. All right, so after all the players have taken all their actions, and this is the first hour of the night, then the infected get to go. Infected that have that are close to the players will take their actions. Remember, I forgot to do it, but remember, his power was that one person gets an extra 2 stress. So you can look here, and then you'd see that it would be player number 1 gets 2 extra stress. And so so you have to do those particular actions. When the infected move in, the players decide who takes the damage. This is one of those things that survivor cubes can do that will protect you. They will destroy the barricades first. Barricade boxes are not placed back into the pile. Barricades are gone. They're destroyed. You don't have a completely unlimited a section, collection of that. So you will run out of barricades. So be very, very stingy with them. Don't always make sure you throw all of them out right away. But whenever you get hit by either a boss or a normal infected, you take the level of damage that infected does in stress. And remember, the more stress you get, eventually you could be incapacitated. And it is very real possibility that you're going to end up, getting knocked out or incapacitated during the battle. And, that's obviously a bad thing. However, if you can survive the entire night, you will get back to dawn. And when you get to dawn, the players have a decision. They have to decide which direction they're going to go. Now, this is probably the part of the game that I like. Well, one of the things I really, really like. The fact that you have to pick a cardinal direction, east, north, south, whatever, and then you have to take that direction, and you have to, when you decide you're going to go in that direction, that is the direction you have to go for your very first movement when you're up here. So you might be in a situation where, I'm going to manufacture this, but you really wanted to go south because you wanted to get to the radio tower, because you wanted to use the radio tower to call the airship to come and pick you up, because that's part of the ending for the airship. And I'm just going to steal a bunch of these here, and I'm just going to say, but you're in a situation where there are a ton of infected blocking your path. And so when you run out, all the players will have to do assault actions, and let's even place the boss over there. We really want to go south, but we have to go ahead and try to manage to beat kill all of those infected in there by using our assault actions. We can't shoot at them. We have to use assault actions to do so. For everyone that isn't killed, it automatically does its stress damage to somebody within the party, meaning that you have to manage to take out, clear a path, if you will. And sometimes you just say, well, you can't do it, and then you're going to have to go, we could say, oh, well, that isn't going to work for us, so we're going to have to, if this was more clear, let's even make it even worse. This was the entire situation. We're there's no way we're going to get through that. We're going to take too much damage. You know what? We're gonna go west, because of the fact that we have one infected that location, and boom, it's dead, and we can go west. You know what? We're not going to go for the airship ending. It's just not going to work for us. And so I really like how you might have plans, but depending upon how the battle goes, it's going to change how those plans work. All right, so then basically after you do that, you clear the board, and then you'll start your day section. You'll have moved on to ticket number 2, and you're going to start day number 2, and you're going to do the whole thing all over again. Eventually what's going to happen is that you're going to either lose because of the fact that you haven't been able to complete any of the things that you want, or what you're going to do is you're going to have one of your finales. And the finales are described in these like these boards. Like here is like escaping by the boat. Here's the Holy Bomb, trying to blow up the Leviathan. There's the Freedom Bridge. There's the one for the airship as well. So you have these different all these different rules and descriptions of how you're going to go about the process of beating the game in that way. That's one of the really cool things about the game. You don't have to beat the game the same exact way every single time, and you can actually go into a game saying, you know what, let's see if we can play it at like a really hard difficulty and call in the airship. Let's see if we can play it. We've never blown up the Leviathan. Let's play it easy this time and just win by blowing up the Leviathan. I really want to like pull off that victory. There's all kinds of stuff like that. The game is interchangeable. Plus the scenarios, which I haven't even talked about at all, but I'm going to mention those in my final thoughts. Great stuff, great fun, and it's just like this game remains like it was already a game I loved, but the publisher and the designer added a bunch of really super cool stuff to make it even better, which I wouldn't have believed was possible, but they did. But let me talk about that and more in my final thoughts. Oh, jeez. I played it like that. All right, so there you go. That should give you a good idea of how the game is played. There is a lot to it, but as you play it, as you get to know the game, it really is one of those things where the game just clicks along really well. And I don't know if it was, I mean, it'd been a while since I played it. I mean, it was like I said, I own the game. I've had it for a long time. It was a game that still like came out every few months or so. But, you know, as well as we all do, we get a lot of games in our collection and stuff like that. And so it had been a little bit since I played it again. It's been a couple months at least. And like when I played it, the second edition one, I was like, wow. I mean, I wasn't like at first able to really put my thumb on the things that they had changed, things that they had made just more clear and more condensed and more just kind of quick and fast. But I felt like the game just any of the gears had been greased, if you will. And so kudos to the developers, kudos to the designer, kudos to the publisher for taking a really great game, recognizing that, yeah, there were going to be like those, what they call the stubborn nails, which is a carpentry term for the, like, you know, it's like, yeah, the thing holds together and it works just fine, but there's those few stubborn nails that bother you, you know. But they worked them out. They pounded those nails down, and they made the game into a much more succinct and fun experience for all the people that are involved. Now, I mentioned the scenarios and I mentioned like things. First of all, go check out the page. Go check out all the different things that they've unlocked with all of the stretch goals, with all the new additions into the characters, the miniatures, all those things. I mean, my first edition game is going to look like a pile. Well, I mean, the game's still going to be fun and it's still going to be awesome to play, but I mean, I'm definitely, there's no way I'll ever play that first edition game, and I'm going to have to give that to somebody who doesn't know the second edition exists, because of the fact that all the cool bells and whistles are replaced into the second edition one. It's just going to, the first edition is going to pale in comparison. But I mean, with all the different scenarios and everything else that's included in the game, you know, like here's like a scenario booklet, here's all, and once again, like, kudos again to the publisher and the designer or whatever for like going the extra mile. Not only, and I should mention this, not only did they like go to the trouble of like creating a really good rule book, a really good straightforward rule book, but also like plenty of like walk-through game explanations. It was like one thing for people to like say, oh, you know, it's like, here's like, and a lot of times when you read a rule book, right, you'll like read a rule book that'll be like, you know, each player, you know, take this action, do that thing, and then they'll have like a little paragraph in italics where it'll say, you know, Deborah decides to place a worker here, and then they get 2 gold. And then Michael decides to put his worker here, and he gets 3 silk. But David doesn't have the option to, and they kind of explain it all. You know what I'm talking about, right? Well, they do that for like the entire rule book for the in this game. It's amazing, and they do that for all of the things. They do it for like the scenario booklets. They do it like here, like you can actually see like here is like a scenario for the plague in Venice. Like if you don't want to just play straightforward campaign, like you can do this. But on the back end, look, they have like a game explanation, like how the plague in Venice works and how the changes are, and they've done that for all of these things that are part of the game. they have like scenarios like, here's like big game hunting, death in the fog. Here's the just a matter of time. Anyway, I'm not gonna show you every single one of these, but the fact that like you have this like big old like chunk of extra stuff, and there's even, this is just the stuff they included in the prototype that I was sent. With all the new stuff they're putting into with all the stretch goals they've hit, I mean, this box is gonna, and I don't know, they're probably gonna have to make a bigger box, right, to be able to fit all the stuff that's in it. And like I said, it's a much better version of the game that I already have that I really, really like. So now, what do I really like about the game? Well, I dig the theme, and like, I remember one time I was designing a game with my buddies. Like, how like they say, those who can do, those who can't teach, and those who can't teach, teach anyway. Well, as like anybody else, I've tried to design a few games in my time, and I'm still trying to design games, and who knows, maybe someday I'll succeed. But it's one of those things where I keep trying to like design stuff, and I keep trying to do these things. And well, a long time ago, my friends and I, we were trying to design some sort of a zombie survival type game. And it was like the whole process was like, oh, we're going to go from point A to point B, and then we would have like some sort of encounter in that point B, and then like you would have a map that would show where you're going, and then we would go to like a combat map to actually do the combat. And we were like really working hard on that, and we were really digging it. And then I got Carnival Zombie, and I was like, oh great, look, they made that game. They made a game where you're going from point A to point B and having problems and having issues and doing actions and having exploration type things. And then all of a sudden then they're going to a combat scene, and they're going back and forth between those two things. And I remember saying, oh, and not only did they do that, but they made it really awesome and better than anything we had ever had any ideas for. So, I mean, they just kind of totally deep-sixed this, like, idea that we had for, like, 6-7 months and, like, had designed. But that's neither here nor there. Thankfully, the game's awesome. But I felt like somebody had, like, put a wiretap in the room where we were and said, that does seem like a good idea. No, they didn't wiretap our room or anything like that. But, I mean, that's what it just seemed like. We always kind of laugh about that whenever we bust out Carnival Zombie and play. But regardless, I mean, it's got that wonderful combination of like, okay, like the economy of actions, which is a nice way of saying you never have enough time to do everything that you want. A limited resources type thing. Very, very fast and quick deterministic combat. So like it isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm gonna put my character here and I'm gonna like hopefully roll some 6s to succeed. Now some games I want to roll dice. Other games I just want to figure out tactically, strategically what I should do in any given shape or any given situation, and then fulfill that particular process to have that done. That's what makes that game fun. That's what fits for that game. And having a deterministic combat system really, really fits for Carnival Zombie. Now, moving forward, like the other thing is that all the different ways that you can beat the game if you want to, and that's just the campaign thing. All the different ways you can beat the game, all the different ways that like you might have a plan of beating the game a certain way, but then things will happen where you just, that's not an option for you to do so. All the different scenarios that you can throw in there, the little dexterity bit with the pile of zombies piling up, the pile of dead bodies piling up on that boat, just super, super cool stuff going on throughout the game, and each game plays out differently. Each game has a different story. Each game has a narrative, and this is the type of game that creates those moments where, like, you remember that moment. You're like, oh, remember that time we played that, and, like, we almost made it across the bridge, but we died. Remember that time we played it, and, like, we got the dirigible to show up just in time to pick us up, and we got out of the graveyard, and we escaped. Those are the types of games that you have those moments, you have those stories, you have those moments of like high-fiving each other around the table or like cursing your luck around the table, and you all remember that. And it's like those games where you're like, yes, or dang it. And that's why I play games. I play games for those moments. I play games for those exciting situations. Now, I mean, and games, super awesome thematic games like Carnival Zombie give those to me. So that's why this is an awesome game. That's why they've created something amazing with the second edition, and why I think you should add it to your collection. So there you go. If you have any questions about it, ask away. Happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really do appreciate it. I know it was kind of a longer one, so if you sat through the whole thing, Yeah, awesome. But regardless to anything, be the best version of you that you possibly can be. It is a challenge, but it is a challenge well worth undertaking. I believe in you. I hope you believe in me. Until next time, you are awesome. I'm the Undead Viking, and yeah, you take care now.